Good afternoon, educators. That means anybody working with young children, caregivers of young children. This could benefit you and, of course, the children. So, today I want to talk about numbers. So, you probably know that any teacher or parent would recommend having some sense of number going into kindergarten. So, as kids are growing up and getting ready for school, hopefully you're counting things and having lots of opportunities to look at numbers and just measure and just in everyday living point out and numbers and how they work. Number sense is a very important word that I could go into more deeply, and I may in another video. But today I just want to focus on knowing numbers. If you can have your child knowing how to count to 100 before they get to kindergarten, that would be fantastic. Not just for the teacher, but because number sense, let me just generally tell you, it's knowing how numbers work. And that seems so basic, but it doesn't come naturally. No, that's not true. It doesn't come easily, and you almost just can't even teach it. It just, the light bulb goes on one day, and you don't have a whole lot of control over when that happens. The only thing you can do is give lots of experiences and lots of examples and lots of discussion about how numbers work. Because in kindergarten, at least in Texas, children will be asked to do a lot of things with number. They're going to be manipulating numbers in all kinds of ways. Even beginning algebra, believe it or not. Like a missing addend, 2 plus what equals 5, things like that. So young children, appropriate or not, are going to have to manipulate these numbers, and they need to have a real grasp on the basics of how numbers work. So obviously you're just going to start out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and kind of work around the number 5 and start small. But as soon as you feel like your child or your children, your class is ready, bring this little baby out. And this is an amazing hundreds chart. It's plastic. It's basically indestructible. But you don't have to have this. You can draw one. You can make one on your computer and print it out. If your child is at that point, they can write their own. That's a lot of fine motor skills for a small child. But maybe even making a hundreds chart with some blanks would be a way to differentiate instruction or give something for the children that are ready for that. If they're an upper level position, they could do that. But what I want to talk about the most about a hundreds chart are the patterns. As some of the examples of playing with numbers and experiencing numbers and having discussions of numbers, if you just get this out and just have a little talk about it, you don't have to ram this stuff down their throats. You can just get this out and say, what do you notice? You know what? I noticed that across the top it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We know those, don't we? Or maybe you don't. Just talk about it. Look what happens down the side of this chart. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 again, only on this side they've got zeros after it. I wonder about that. You could notice over here. Look at this column. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and they all have a 1 in front. Look across the middle. Look how it has a pattern. 5, 1, 5, 2, 5, 3, 5, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 9, and then 6. Numbers are pretty cool, aren't they? So just talking about it and letting them discover excuse me, you can discover those things aloud, because thinking about your thinking, metacognition, or modeling your thinking is always a good thing for teachers and caregivers to do with children. And so I didn't have to point out all of those things, but those are some examples of things that you could point out. And hopefully, if you don't give all the surprises away, they will be the one to notice some of those things on a 100s chart. And the more familiar they become with a hundreds chart, they become aware of how words, I'm used to saying how words work, how numbers work. This is a good lesson in before and after. This having information about the big numbers and the small numbers, it's right here. Of course, counting by tens, and then you can teach a child 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. But if they don't know what that means, if they don't know that there's a set of 10, and then another set of 10, and then another set of 10, and kind of what 100 looks like, how many 100 looks like, then they're going to miss out on some of the concepts. So I didn't practice this. I'm sure you can't even tell. I didn't practice what I was going to say, and I'm probably going to think of things later that I need to add. So I might comment below if I look back on this and realize there was more to say about it, which I'm sure there is. But my main idea today is that a 100s chart, discovering the patterns and knowing how numbers look, knowing how numbers work, that there's an order to them, and that they hold value. That not necessarily be on the chart, but the longer, the more further you down get on there, the bigger the number. Just all that stuff. Kids need to know number inside, outside, backwards, forwards, just everything basic that we take for granted. There's a lot to numbers and how they work, and the more your child knows about basic number sense, the easier all of that other stuff that they're going to get crammed down their throats in kindergarten, the easier that will come to them. So make yourself one of these. Buy yourself one of these if you can. Talk with your kids about numbers and patterns. Happy educating.